Alright guys, in today's video we're talking about business credit cards for real estate investors. Should they be getting them for their business or should they be avoiding them altogether? Specifically, I want to talk about for new investors. Should a new investor go get business credit cards to start and grow their company, or is this too risky? Is this going to get them in trouble? Because a new investor doesn't really know what they don't know, right? They're going to start their business, they're going to run up a bunch of debt, and quickly, they've got the credit line or credit cards because they had huge promotional opportunities like 0% interest for 12 months. That interest period is going to disappear quickly. 20+% interest is going to stack on top of all that debt that they have. Now the way the world is going to get heavy, they got a bunch of debt, a bunch of interest. They're not making money in their business, and quickly it can turn into a bad situation. I see a lot of people get in trouble quickly, and this happened to me, and I want to talk about that in today's video, guys. So, if you're already using credit cards in your business and you want to continue using them, or you're thinking about getting them going forward, or after watching this you plan on getting them, at least use some of these tips I give you in today's video to help increase your chances of winning at the credit game. Now, I started Investor Army because I made a ton of mistakes in my business, and I hope by filming some of these videos you can avoid making some of these big expensive mistakes that I made. So I'm gonna share with you what I did, which was not knowing what I didn't know, and I didn't know that credit lines and credit cards were a completely different thing. I thought I was getting credit lines, but what happened was I got credit cards. So as you know, I paid a bunch of money to go to one of those flashy seminar gurus, and they ripped me off. They took $35,000 for me, and they didn't trade any good value. They didn't even tell me the difference between a credit line and a credit card. The only time they talked about any type of credit was when they wanted me to go get credit cards open so I had enough money to purchase their expensive training program. So be very careful, guys, when you're out there at these seminar companies. Now, what happened was I quickly ran up a bunch of debt because I had good training, right? They helped me become successful and become a millionaire, or they didn't, right? And so I quickly ran up a bunch of debt, and I knew that I needed more money to continue running my business, but I didn't have any income coming in. So I had the option of trying to get a credit line or credit cards, or going to a friend or a family member and tucking my tail and saying, I know you're right, you said I was gonna fail at this, but can I borrow $10,000 or $15,000? I didn't want to do that, so behind the scenes, I was like, I'm gonna go get a credit line. And what did I do? I went to all the big banks and I went out there and I said, hey, I need a credit line, I want $100,000. And they said, no. They said, you used to have income, now you don't, right? So I was like, look at all this income I used to make, but they're like, you're not making in the past couple of years, so we're not giving you a credit line. A lot of y'all are not financeable, you can't work with banks, and a lot of y'all cannot get credit lines. So what is the next step that most people make or take, right? They go online or they go out to their REI club and there's someone there talking about, get your $50,000 to $250,000 unsecured business lines of credit, guaranteed approval, apply today, get it within 48 hours or whatever it is, right? So you get all excited, right? And you think you're gonna get this huge credit line. But what do they tell you? We're gonna give you $50,000 to $250,000 credit line. You're gonna get anywhere between 8 and 20% interest rates. You're gonna get anywhere between 6 month and 18 month 0% introductory periods, right? So anytime there's a range, guys, when you're talking to companies and they're talking about ranges, almost every time you're gonna be the one that gets the bottom of the range. So you're gonna get $50,000 with 6% 0% interest periods with 20+% interest rates. That's just how it is, but they're gonna attract you in because they're gonna give a few people there with stellar credit, the top of the line, but for the most people, they're giving you the junk, right? So what happened was I didn't know that I wasn't getting credit lines, and I ended up paying $4,000 or $5,000 to get business credit cards. The first mistake I made was I should have applied for these cards on my own and saved that money, guys. You don't need a business credit card company to go get your own cards, apply yourself. Now, the second thing I didn't understand was that I was getting business credit cards. And for one, they didn't even get me the $50,000 they said they were. They only got me like $35,000, $36,000, and I got a bunch of cards, like 7 or 8 cards with $3,000 balances, $5,000 balances, $2,500 balances with really small cash advance fees. So here's the difference between a credit line and credit cards. If you get a $100,000 credit line over here versus $100,000 in business credit cards, you have one line direct to the bank that you can write a check off of. You're gonna have a lot better benefits as far as the interest rate that you get. It's gonna stay lower, there's smaller penalties, and it makes it a lot easier to run your business, and it's one line, and that's it. Over here, you have a bunch of cards, small cash advance fees, huge penalties. For example, I had a card that I made every payment on for 2 years. I was paying like 13% interest, and then I paid off a big balance in full, and there's a small amount of interest rate that carried over the next month. I didn't know it. It was like 20 some bucks. I didn't pay it. I missed the minimum payment on like $20, and they jumped me after 2 years from 13 to like 29.5% or something crazy, just under 30%. That's a true story. So that's the risk you have playing with credit cards. Plus you can't get that money off. So if you have $50,000 but you only have $12,000 in cash advances, how are you gonna grow your business? At least if you have a $100,000 credit line, you can do a few deals at a time. So you want to get business credit cards and not credit lines. But here's the problem. These business credit card companies hide under the name of business credit lines when they're not. Just like most hard money lenders hide under the name private money lender, but they're not really, because, I mean, I guess they kind of are, but they're charging points up front. So they tell these new investors, well, I'm a private money lender. So these new investors know that they need to raise private money. So they think they found one, and they think they found it that easily, even though that person's out there marketing themselves at the clubs, the REI clubs, asking for huge points up front. So be very careful. So when you contact these companies, guys, ask them, how many cards am I going to get? Is this business credit cards or business credit line? Because if you're going to get 10 credit cards or more than one credit card, you're not really getting business credit lines, and it's going to be a lot more headache for you to grow your business. Now, all that being said, even though business credit cards almost caused me to go through bankruptcy, I could not have grown my business without those credit cards. I would not be here today, I promise you, if I didn't use business credit cards. So should investors be using these? Yes. Should you be very careful and be very wary of what you're doing? Yes. Be very careful and pay close attention. I know what it's like when you have a bunch of debt run up on a bunch of cards, you don't even want to look at your balances. But you need to understand how to play the credit game and do it correctly. So I'm going to show you how and how to increase your chances of doing better with your credit cards in today's video. So the first thing, guys, you want to do is you want to ask for credit increases. So if you've already got credit cards, or the only thing you can go get is business credit cards, you're gonna get a bunch of small balances, 5 grand, 8 grand, 10 grand, and that's not gonna get you very far. And as a real estate investor, we start out, we're so focused on the present moment, we need it now, but you need to understand this is a long-term game and you're gonna be in this for a while, so you need to understand that you're trying to position yourself down the road. So you need to consistently ask for credit increases every 6 months. And the best time to do so, now I have no evidence that this actually is a real thing, but it seems that we have a better chance of getting a higher credit increase when we pay off a huge balance. So say we had $5,000 car, we had $4,500 balance on it. Right after we paid it off, that's usually when I call in and ask for a credit increase. So over the years, I've been able to take those cards that were $5,000 to $8,000 to $12,000, $15,000, $20,000. So now instead of having a bunch of cards for $3,000, $7,000, $10,000, I've got a bunch of cards that are $25,000 to $35,000, $40,000 that now I can actually use to do real things with the business, especially when I get special promotional offers like balance transfers, which we'll talk about in just a second. The second thing you guys need to do is, at least every 6 months as well, is contact your card company and ask for a decrease in interest rate. So just because they've jumped up your interest rate, guys, if they jumped it up and it was a clear mistake or something happened or they jumped it up for some reason, call them and ask for interest rate reduction, right? So you always contact the first person. If they tell you they can't get you a credit line increase or they can't get you a decrease in interest rate, you ask to talk to the supervisor and simply explain to that person you're talking on the phone, you're doing a great job, I want to compliment you to your supervisor, but you want to talk to the main decision maker. Explain to them what's going on, ask them if they can increase your credit line and decrease your interest rate, and you'd be surprised how much of the time they can actually do one or the other. And if they decrease your interest rate, you're making money. If they increase your credit line, you have more money to put into the play or put in play out in the field, which is going to increase your income as well. Now, it's very important to continuously do this at least every 6 months. You don't want to do it too often. Also, if you should ask them, are you going to pull hard inquiry if you do this to increase my limit? Most of the time they won't, but sometimes they do. The third thing, guys, when you're on the phone with them, ask for a cash advance increase. One of the biggest problems with business credit cards is we need the cash, right? So what are you going to do if you don't have a bunch of cash? You're going to have to find more cash somewhere. And if you ask them for a credit or a cash advance increase, a lot of times if you have a $10,000 balance and they're only giving you $800, they may increase it to $2,500. But sometimes you need the extra cash to pay some of your workers who do not have credit card or merchant accounts, or for whatever reason, guys, sometimes you have to make a payment that you weren't expecting to make. So it's good to have as much cash available at all times, even though you're going to pay a huge interest rate on it. But go ahead and ask for cash advance increases. Now here's another tip that's very good for you, because in the beginning, I know how it is. You're going to get a bunch of credit cards. It's going to get out of control. You're going to miss a bunch of payments. And you're going to start having a lot of late fees and interest charges and penalties. So always ask to release the penalties and fees. So what happened to me was I didn't want to look at my credit cards because I was paying so much, and it basically made me sick to look at what I actually owed. And so I was missing credit card payments, and I had all these different card companies, 10 different companies, and I had all these fees, and I ran out of money to market, and I was like, I need to find some money somewhere. So I said, I'm gonna call each and every card and ask if they'll take off some of these late fees or penalties and help me out here a little bit. And almost every time you contact them, say you have missed penalties and fees, they're gonna at least take off 1 or 2. Sometimes they take off a lot of them. You'd be surprised how often they take off a lot of fees. But most every time they're gonna take off at least one of them. Even if you go 6 months back, they'll still take off fees. So if you got a bunch of cards, they're gonna take off a $29 fee, a $49 fee, a $19 fee. It can add up to hundreds of dollars quickly. And when you're starting your business or you're just trying to make your payments to continue on going forward, this can be very valuable for you. So make sure you pick up the phone and call them and ask them to remove some of the penalties or late fees, because it's gonna really help you out. Now, the last thing you have to ask them while you're on the phone with them is ask them for if they're having any promotional offers. This is very important, guys. Promotional offers can come up without you knowing about it. They don't always notify you. And one of the biggest ones you want to ask for is, do I have a balance transfer promotional offer? Because sometimes you have a card where you have a $7,000 balance and only $1,000 is available for cash advance, but all $7,000 is available for balance transfer to your business checking account, and you may be able to transfer it all for a very small amount. And so basically for sometimes 3%, you can transfer that whole $7,000 line to your checking account. Now you have $7,000 of cash that you only paid 3% on, which is a pretty good deal. Where else are you gonna raise money that cheap? So guys, these are some of the things you need to do. At least every 6 months, contact your companies, ask for a credit limit increase, ask for a decrease in interest rate, ask for a cash advance increase, right? Ask for penalties and fees to be removed, and then also always ask to find out your promotional offers. And you need to understand which cards have the lowest balances at the time and which are promotional periods, so that you use the ones accordingly to use the least amount of interest on your credit lines or credit cards at all time. So guys, I hope you liked today's video. I think you should be using credit cards. Be safe with them. Go out there, be successful in your business. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day.